In a quiet town surrounded by rolling hills and golden sunsets, there lived a young girl named Eliza, barely 16, who worked as a maid in the grand estate of Mr. Alexander Grant, a reclusive millionaire known for his vast wealth, stern demeanor, and a life shrouded in mystery and solitude, for though he had all the riches that others envied, his mansion echoed with silence and loneliness, and the few servants he employed knew never to cross his path unless summoned. But Eliza was different. For though poor and burdened with the struggles of her life, she carried with her a light of innocence, kindness, and humility that even the walls of that cold mansion could not extinguish, and when she first stepped into its marble halls with trembling hands and hopeful eyes, she did not imagine that her journey would intertwine with the final days of the man everyone feared yet secretly pitied, for fate had already written a story far more powerful than either of them could understand. Eliza's days were filled with chores, dusting ancient chandeliers, scrubbing marble floors, polishing grand staircases, and carrying trays of meals that were rarely eaten, but unlike the other servants who worked in silence and slipped away, she would often pause to look at the closed doors of Mr. Grant's study, wondering what kind of man hid behind those heavy oak doors, wondering why someone so wealthy looked so hollow in the rare glimpses she caught of him sitting alone in the garden with only the wind for company. One rainy afternoon, when thunder rolled and lightning painted the sky in furious white, Eliza was sent to bring him his tea, and for the first time their eyes met. His gaze, sharp and weary, carried decades of unspoken pain, while hers, wide and gentle, reflected no fear, only a quiet curiosity, and in that silent exchange something shifted, for Mr. Grant, used to people bowing, trembling, or flattering, saw in this maid a courage so unassuming yet profound, and instead of sending her away as he usually did, he asked her to sit for a moment, his voice hoarse as though unused to kindness. From that day, a strange bond began to form, subtle at first, for Eliza would speak to him about the simplest things, the blooming flowers in the garden, the laughter of children she saw in the village square, the taste of fresh bread from the market, and though he rarely responded, he listened, and in his listening, cracks began to appear in the walls of stone he had built around his heart, and little by little he let her presence linger, until one evening, weakened by illness he had long kept hidden, he confided to her words no one had ever heard, that he had lived his life chasing fortune, building empires, signing deals, buying lands, but in the process he had lost what truly mattered, his family, his friends, his capacity to love. And now as his body betrayed him and the shadows of death drew closer, he realized that wealth could not buy back time, nor could it comfort a lonely heart, and with tears brimming in his tired eyes, he whispered to Eliza that he had only one last wish before he left this world, a wish no lawyer, no doctor, no business partner could fulfill, but perhaps she could, if only she had the courage. Eliza, though startled, placed her trembling hand on his frail one and promised that if it was within her power, she would do it, for she believed every soul deserved peace in their final moments, and he smiled faintly, the first genuine smile in decades, as though her promise alone had lifted a burden. In the days that followed, their conversations deepened. He told her of his youth, of a woman he once loved but drove away with his ambition, of a daughter he had never met because pride and anger had destroyed the chance of reconciliation, and of the empty victories that had turned his mansion into a prison instead of a home. And Eliza listened with a heart far wiser than her years, her compassion weaving healing into his regrets, until one fateful night as the moonlight bathed the room in silver, he finally revealed his last wish, his voice trembling like a candle about to fade. He longed to see the daughter he had abandoned, to hold her hand just once before death claimed him, and to beg for her forgiveness. But he had no strength left to find her, no courage to face the wounds he had caused, and so he asked Eliza, the young maid who had been nothing more than a stranger weeks ago yet had become the only friend his soul could trust, to seek out his daughter and bring her home. Eliza's heart pounded, for the task seemed impossible for a girl of her standing. She had no money, no knowledge of where to start, and yet she looked into his pleading eyes and felt the weight of a man's final hope pressing upon her. And in that moment she vowed she would not let him leave this world with such regret. She would do everything in her power to fulfill the last wish of a dying millionaire, no matter how far she had to go, no matter how many doors closed in her face, no matter how heavy the road became. And thus, her journey began, a journey that would test her resilience, break her limits, and prove that sometimes the pure heart of a young girl could succeed where riches and power had failed. For love and forgiveness are treasures far greater than gold. Dear viewer, this story is only beginning, and the journey ahead will leave you inspired and in tears, so stay with us, share in Eliza's courage, and if this touched your heart even a little, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, because more stories of hope, love, and redemption await you right here, and you will not want to miss what happens next when Eliza sets out to fulfill a millionaire's last wish.